Have you ever asked somebody why they use an iPhone?
So we're gonna start with Dom. Which smartphone is in your pocket right now?
Do I reveal it right now, or? Got the iPhone 10.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Sometimes it's hard to break away from that ecosystem.
What is it about this ecosystem you're talking about?
Judner, you're next, man. The pressure's on.
iPhone 10.
Wow, it's just 2 phones so far.
I'm gonna be straight up. It's iMessage, man, in the ecosystem.
Whoa.
That's what it is for me.
So to be fair, you need to be totally into the Apple ecosystem. So I'm talking Apple Music, iPhones, Macs, the whole thing.
But on the flip side, if you're in the Apple ecosystem and the tech outweighs everything else, I would pick these up.
The ecosystem. The ecosystem. There are tales all over the internet about this ecosystem. In tech reviews and all kinds of iPhone videos, probably every HomePod video on the internet has that word or that phrase in it somewhere. And even in regular everyday conversations, if you ask somebody why they use an iPhone, it more or less comes down to the same answer. Sometimes it is just because it's the best all-around phone and they believe the hardware is superior. That's sometimes, but really often, like really often, the answer has something to do with the ecosystem. Ecosystem, a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. So in tech, an ecosystem is just a community of interacting objects. So Apple makes a ton of devices. The iPhone, the iPad, the Mac, the Apple Watch, the Apple TV, the HomePod, AirPods, but they also make a lot of software and proprietary technology that ties them all together. AirPlay, AirDrop, Continuity, iCloud. So once they can draw you into the ecosystem somewhere with one of their devices, let's say an iPhone, for example, you get an iPhone like many people do, then they can try to lure you to spend more money on other Apple products because they just work so well together. Now, most companies have a family of products. That's not new. It's not like Apple's the only one doing that. But what makes this particularly unique ecosystem so successful, maybe the most successful ecosystem ever, is not only how well they work together, but the walls they've built up around those things. Living inside this Apple ecosystem is sort of like what we call a walled garden. You may have heard that expression before. Meaning everything that's in the garden, in these walls, it's this beautiful, luscious garden, everything is green, it's everything you could ever want, but these walls on the outside are really tall, and they kind of don't want you trying to climb out or trying to explore beyond those walls. Just look at all the great stuff in here. Basically, once you get a couple of Apple devices, you start to get into the ecosystem. Let's say you get an iPhone and a MacBook, just those two things. They make it as easy as possible. You start using iMessage. You start getting text messages on your phone, and then you can reply to them on your computer. Super easy. Blue bubbles everywhere. You're web browsing on your phone. Then you sit down at your computer, and it shows up for you to pick up exactly where you left off. You have iCloud Drive, so any files on one are always on the other. Anything not showing up? AirDrop. Peer-to-peer sharing. Legendary. You have tethering, so the MacBook always has the iPhone's internet wherever you go. Want to make a video call? I guess FaceTime's right there. You can answer it on either device. You ask Siri to remind you for something, it'll put it in the Reminders app every time. So okay, now you're in the market for a smartwatch. Well, you just get an Apple Watch. Like, what other options are there, really? Now you can answer texts on your watch too, blue bubbles everywhere, answer calls on your watch, there's FaceTime still, ask Siri to set reminders on the watch, it'll put them in the Reminders app. Everything works together so beautifully. Okay, now you're in the market for a smart speaker. It's a pretty new market. A couple of options out there. Seems like it makes perfect sense to just go with the Apple one. Now suddenly wireless headphones are gaining steam. You're in the market for some wireless earbuds. AirPods are right there. They work perfectly. You get the idea. All these services and products are designed to be as good as possible. Yes, of course. But they're also designed to be these little hooks to keep you in the Apple ecosystem, to keep you giving them information, and to keep you buying more Apple products as long as possible. And the way to keep you using those products is to make those products as good as possible within the ecosystem. And those are key words. Within the ecosystem. This explains the existence of so many Apple products that on the surface or from the outside, from behind those walls, can seem kind of limited or pointless or dumb, especially in new markets where there's just the beginnings of competition. Like, why does the HomePod exist in 2018? A smart speaker that only uses Siri, only uses Apple Music, does not connect to Bluetooth, does not connect to anything that's not an iPhone, does not have a headphone jack? Because for that guy who uses Apple Music and has an iCloud account and has an iPhone, it's kind of perfect. To be honest though, I've even been guilty of being in the ecosystem. You know, despite being, I mean, I use Android, so I'm not tied in as deep. I use some multi-platform stuff, Spotify, Dropbox, things like that. But I'm a Final Cut Pro editor because Final Cut Pro is really good. And Final Cut Pro is Mac only, and it will probably pretty much always be Mac only. So what about leaving? What about getting out of the ecosystem? Well, in Apple's case, pretty much everything is tied to your iCloud account, and if you want to get out of the ecosystem, you have to rip that information out of your iCloud and sort of import it into that new service. A lot of times, much easier said than done. The more closely tied to iCloud that device is, the more hooks it has into other parts of the ecosystem that make it harder to take out. So accessories like AirPods, for example, you know, they work perfectly with things like your iPhone and your iPad and your MacBook because of the W1 chip. They pair effortlessly. We all know it just kind of works the Apple way. But if you want to switch to another pair of headphones, it's just that one hook in and you can move to another pair of wireless headphones and get away with it. Now, if you use Apple Music and want to switch to Spotify, because it's clearly better, again, it's like one hook, but good luck trying to switch your entire library between the platforms. Entire companies have been born trying to make that process easier. But trying to leave the iPhone to go to another phone that's not in the ecosystem is tough because there's a lot of hooks into this. All of your app purchases are gone. Your FaceTime is gone. Your AirPods become useless. Your HomePod becomes useless. You can't use the Reminders app anymore. Your Apple Watch becomes a paperweight, and iMessage is gone. And then the iPhone, the holy grail for shepherding people into this garden, is so hard to leave that a new phone could come along with a better screen, better battery, no notch, a better camera, better battery life, a headphone jack, and they'd still skip it because that ecosystem, though, it's kind of incredible. Also, by the way, there's other ecosystems too. There's Google's, Amazon's, Samsung's. There's some more complete than others. And just generally, you'll notice ecosystems from everyone are expanding and evolving. 2 years ago, you didn't really need smart appliances in your ecosystem as a tech company. A couple days ago, Amazon bought Ring for $1 billion to get ahead on smart video doorbells. So that's just kind of the world we're living in, with all these companies building up their ecosystems, some with little walls, some with huge walls, some are just as open as possible. Google's, for example, is probably the most multi-platform possible. You want Google Photos, you can get it anywhere. You want Gmail, you can get it anywhere. Things like that are fun to see, but it's still interesting to look at and evaluate Apple's, which has been closed off for so long. The walls have been built for so long that it kind of makes its own weird case study. Other than that, that's pretty much it. My only suggestion would be don't isolate yourself to just one ecosystem. Don't lock yourself in. Or if you are already locked in, maybe take a peek over those walls before it's too late. Thanks for watching. Talk to you in the next one. Peace.